Dan Jones, mobile editor at Light Reading, here at our Automation Everywhere event in Dallas, Texas. I'm here with David Hughes, VP of IP Engineering at PCCW. Hi, Dave.
Hey, Dan, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing outstanding.
Great. Well, we're here to talk about intent-based networking. So can we start with a little kind of definition of what that means for you?
Yeah, there's lots of different ways to define it. I like to try to keep things a little simple. And what intent-based networking is reducing networking more to a declarative explanation of what wants done, as opposed to defining the discrete, fundamental, technical steps of provisioning a service. So a customer would say something like, I want A to connect to B, as opposed to saying, I want a T1 from here to here for this, at this bandwidth, at this speed, and it just simplifies it. And what it ultimately does is it flips network provisioning, instead of being the traditional bottom-up process it's always been in the past, is it becomes more of a top-down and puts the customer in control of the provisioning process.
Cool. So you mentioned in the panel we just saw that you saw some influences from Google in terms of the way that intent-based networking has been done, and Google originally provisioned its searches.
Yeah, well, Google, if you want to look at intent-based, it's like intent-based searching, right? How many times have you actually completed typing in the full search before Google told you what it was you're looking for?
Right.
That's sort of inspirational for intent-based networking, because we would like to achieve the same thing, is be able to understand what the customer's intent is actually before they really can fully specify it. They don't need to fully specify it. And that makes it a little bit easier for businesses to consume network services without even really knowing that they're network services. And it's just, it simplifies the whole process.
Right. Now, obviously there's a lot of kind of technology and plumbing going on underneath all of that. Where do you feel that PCCW is on the intent-based networking kind of scale at the moment?
Well, we've been talking about it, and what we have is a product, Console Connect, which is basically a user-defined provisioning system to go and define their sites and to connect sites together. And so what we've been talking about is how to take that and possibly layer some sort of natural language processing on top of that.
With all of these things, they're kind of they're often a long game. What do you think the future of intent-based networking for telcos is?
Well, when I look at it, I see lots of different people contributing parts that I think will ultimately come into play with it. MEF with the LSO 3.0 and the Katana and Presto APIs and Sonata APIs. Those are important things. When you see the work that AT&T is doing with ONAP and the service designer concept, you see things in cloud world like Juju from Canonical, where services are embedded behind objects that can be manipulated on a canvas. And so what I ultimately think there will be is there will be either open source or some sort of standard-based software that you can that customers can download from wherever, either the carriers themselves or maybe just pure open source from Bitbucket, GitHub. And it's a canvas designer. Maybe it connects to a single carrier, maybe it can connect to multiple carriers, and then the customers can use that tool to inquire to the carriers what services they provide, and they can drop down their sites on the canvas, draw lines to connect sites together, specify metadata parameters that they may be interested in, whether they want the pipes to be clean, whether they want sites to be protected, whether they have any specific SLA guarantees they want, and be able to bundle that up, and then that software basically sends a request off to one or more carriers for fulfillment. That was tough.
Right.
So hopefully the software will be easier to use than it is to set.
Yeah. And that's not kind of like a 2018 proposition. Right?
Not at all, not hardly. It's going to be one of those things where we sneak up on it. But that being said, whereas people often overestimate how much work they can get done in a year, we often underestimate how much we can get done in a decade.
Right.
So But customers need an easier way to consume networking services, especially with the rate at which technology is being delivered. It's exceeding the rate at which customers are able to consume it. And so, intent-based networking is a way to help speed up or to shorten that time cycle from when something's delivered to when it can be consumed, which is another way to deliver value faster and help drive, the economics of networking.
Great. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, man. I appreciate it.